So I'd like to get underway firstly by thanking Stride, who are our meetup sponsor and have made this online webinar possible. So Stride is a data orchestration platform that tightly integrates with Salesforce Marketing Cloud. And you can learn more at getstride.com. So firstly, a bit about me, who's Eliot Harper. So this is my 30-second resume. I'm a independent Marketing Cloud consultant. I've been using Marketing Cloud, formerly ExactTarget, for over 4 years now. And I'm very active on Stack Exchange, which is a great community to go and learn Marketing Cloud, where you can go and ask questions and find out similar questions to issues that you may be having that other users have also experienced. And I found I've learned Marketing Cloud by two ways. Firstly, from using the product, but also from being very active on Stack Exchange. And I'm constantly learning new things every day, still 4 years later, through my participation on Stack Exchange. I'm a co-organizer of this developer group, and I'm also author of Journey Builder Developer's Guide, soon to be a major motion picture. Watch out for that. Journey Builder Developer's Guide, the movie. And I've also Salesforce certified in Marketing Cloud and a Salesforce Most Valued Professional, MVP. So enough about me. Let's get on with the session. Now, so what we're going to be covering over the next hour is I'll give you an overview of the APIs. We'll take a look at APIs and SDKs available in Marketing Cloud. We'll touch on authentication and show you how to create apps in App Center. We'll look at how you can use tools like Postman for rapid development and working with APIs. And I want to go and share some useful methods. These are some undocumented API methods and other helpful methods for using Marketing Cloud. I will promise you that I can guarantee everyone on this who's participating in this call today will learn something new. And if you don't, I'll give you your money back. So let's firstly take a look at an overview of the Marketing Cloud APIs. So Marketing Cloud provides a family of tools for developers, as formerly branded the name Fuel, which has since been deprecated. There was internally a lot of confusion just within Salesforce what Fuel meant, and it really didn't have much currency. So they've since dropped that. But the APIs enable developers to go and build, extend, and integrate Marketing Cloud to other third-party platforms. So Marketing Cloud's APIs has evolved over, the past 15 years now, and now includes a number of APIs and hundreds of methods, in fact, and SDKs for developers. So let's start with the SOAP API then. So the SOAP API was introduced in 2007, replaced the what was then the XML API, which was introduced, I think, around 2002, and that's no longer supported. And so the SOAP, or Simple Object Access Protocol, web service API is the most extensive API in Marketing Cloud. In fact, there are over 273, or in fact, exactly 273 API objects that you can interact with. This API provides a service-orientated architecture that exposes portions of Marketing Cloud functionality as interoperable, reusable services. It enables a series of different methods to be used with these with the WSDL objects to do things like create and manage accounts, run automation, send email and SMS messages, working with data. In fact, most of what you can do within the user interface is available in the SOAP API. The SOAP API today is still maintained, but Marketing Cloud aren't extending it further. They're adding new functionality to the REST API, which is the focus. So onto the REST API. REST API was introduced 5 years later in 2012, and it provides a RESTful client-server architectural style to integrate with external platforms. So the REST API is really focused on supporting two things. Firstly, multi-channel use cases, and also there's a strong focus around this contact model, which was introduced a few years ago around the time of Journey Builder. And the REST API is continually being extended. We're seeing new methods being added every single year. In addition to the two APIs, there are a number of SDKs available for developers working with Marketing Cloud. So the SDKs were launched in 2013, a year later after the REST API, and they provide wrappers around the API methods and provide native language constructs for a number of web application frameworks, including C#, Java, Node, PHP, and Ruby and Python. Ruby and Python are community supported, whereas the others are directly through Salesforce Marketing Cloud. And the SDKs really provide protocol autonomous interfaces for interacting with this open REST APIs. There's some really nice features built into the SDKs, and one example is that at their core, each SDK includes a client library for managing access tokens, for example. So you don't have to be concerned about when your access token expires and going and getting a new OAuth access token that we'll take a look at shortly. The SDKs handle that on your behalf. And they include a number of common patterns and best practice implementations and some working examples to enable rapid application development. So the SDKs are there for you to use. You don't have to use them, but in certain use cases, they can be very, very helpful indeed. So onto Journey Builder for apps. This was introduced in 2014, and it's caused a lot of confusion. It's formerly named the Mobile Push SDK, and Journey Builder for apps does a couple of things. Firstly, it extended the in-app messaging capabilities provided by what was then the Mobile Push SDK, which was launched in 2012. And is really largely a rebrand. This is one of my I've got to be in my bonnet. I find that the name is somewhat confusing and misleading because it's actually really nothing to do with Journey Builder. It's focused around mobile push. It provides a framework for sending push messages to mobile apps, and push messages can include like text alerts or a mobile optimized landing page or a combination of the two for rich text or rich push notifications. So within Journey Builder for Apps, or JB4A, the SDK supports both iOS and Android platforms, including the new Amazon devices. And it facilitates the analytics information back to the mobile push app in Marketing Cloud, enables reporting on how users interact with mobile apps, including which messages users open and how much time they spend in-app. So in addition to the APIs and SDKs, we also have an authentication service. So Marketing Cloud APIs now use the OAuth 2.0 protocol for authentication and authorization for API methods. And the way it works is that credentials are obtained by what you do is create an app in the Marketing Cloud App Center, and we'll jump in and take a look at that shortly. And there's also support for non-session-based authentication, for example, like a mobile application, and that's enabled through these refresh tokens, so that the access token's valid for 700 days, and then you can go and request a refresh token. The authentication service really provides separation of concerns through a permission-based model. And by that, I mean, when you go and create these apps, as we'll see shortly, you can go and define permissions to what features in Marketing Cloud that you can access. So, for example, if you're just using an app to go and send an email, you can configure the app to go and add subscriber data to lists and go and write an email and send an email, but can't read from data extensions. And so it provides, in the event that those credentials are compromised, then it enables you to control the security around your Salesforce Marketing Cloud account. And the Authentication Service, while it is REST-based, it's also been extended to support the SOAP API as an alternative to the legacy username, password, basic authentication that was originally in the SOAP API. And that is still supported, but bear in mind, if you're using username passwords, there are a couple of issues. A, you have access to all the features. You can't have that granular separation of concerns that OAuth gives you. And also, obviously, if the password changes for a user account, then the API method is going to stop working. So let's jump in and have a look at how you go about and create an app in App Center. I just want to spend a few minutes on this. Many of you will be familiar with this, but some may not be. So I'm just going to go across to App Center. Just wait for the page to load. And here we go. So this is the Marketing Cloud App Center. It's free to go and sign up. You can just simply go and click on the Create Account link and follow the process of creating an account. But once I've created an account, I can then go and log in. And I see all of the apps that I previously created. In this case, I'm just going to jump to this Create New App button. And I've got three options. So we've got API integration, a package. And a package refers to creating an application which is exposed inside Salesforce Marketing Cloud, and then mobile push. We're going to be focused on the API integration app. So let's go and click that. And I'm just going to go and give it a name, and let's call this one SFMCDG Meetup. And it's the 24th of August. I can add an optional description, and you have to have a package name. This is it's an internal name, and it has to be unique. So let's call it FMCDG -meetup, and click next. Now I have to go and integrate with an existing account. This is really used as an initial handshake between a business unit on a Salesforce Marketing Cloud account and the app itself. And I'm going to explain some considerations of this shortly. So let me go and click Link to Account. When I do that, because I've already logged in, I have an active Marketing Cloud session available. I see that I see my account here, and I see all the business units under here. So I'm just going to go and select the business unit that I want. So I've got a business unit called Eliot Harper. So let's go and click and integrate with that account. And what I want to do is now I can go and choose the permissions for that app. So let's say that I'm just going to go and send an email. So I want to go and send an email and maybe list and subscribers. I'll have to go and write because I'm going to add them to the all subscribers list. And so you can go through each of the other permission areas and add or revoke permissions as required. So you can also, once you've done this, you can go back and change the permissions. I'd discourage you from going and enabling everything unless you have a very good reason to do so. Instead, consider creating different apps for different use cases and scenarios. So click Next and click Finish. And I'm now presented with my client ID and client secret that I can go and use. And I'll be deleting this after, so please don't go and write this down because you won't be able to use them. And we're using that to request an access token, which we'll see shortly. So you'll make a note of that. Once I've gone and created that app, and this is very important, if I go across to Marketing Cloud, and I'm going to go over to, I'm in the Eliot Harper business unit. Let me go to administration. And under account, there's this menu option called install packages. Let me go and open this. This used to be under the platform menu, and it's since been moved. And so here you can see all of the install packages. That is all of the apps or packages that have been created or linked to this business unit. And here's the one we just created for this meetup today. Now, bear in mind that although I authenticated as a user when I went and created that app, those credentials aren't actually used ongoing by the app. And what I mean by that is if I go and change my password, the app doesn't break, which is good. But more specifically, let's say, for example, you're working on a project and you've got some subcontractors and they go and create these apps. And then when the project is over, say that their contract ends and they leave, even though you've gone and disabled their user account, because you can't delete user accounts in Marketing Cloud, even though their account's disabled, those auth credentials are still valid. And so, of course, what that means is that anything that you can do with the SOAP API and REST API, that these could potentially be exploited. So, the contractor's gone and created, or a previous staff member has gone and created an app, and they can come back in and, in theory, use the SOAP API to go and create other user accounts without you knowing. So it's important to, I'd say, do an audit of which applications, which install packages that are related to a business unit, and you've got an option to go and remove them or delete them from a business unit simply by selecting this delete option here. That's probably extremely good to know. So let me just jump back to the presentation. So that's the Authentication Service, and we had a look how to create these apps in App Center. I'm now going to talk about Postman. So Postman provides a convenient tool for rapid prototyping and API testing. It works with this notion of environment variables, which happen within an environment, and they also have global environment variables, which are of specific interest to Salesforce Marketing Cloud users, as we'll see in a minute. And the helpful folks at Salesforce have actually created a Postman Collection containing, I think around 52 popular API methods that you can use for both the REST and SOAP API. And Postman also includes a test runner, which is extremely useful for automating unit tests. So let's go and take a look at Postman and how you can use Postman. So here we are within Postman. You can hear me now, yes?
We can hear you, but we can't see your screen.
Great. Okay, fantastic. So in Postman, you have a notion of collections, and collections are essentially a...
Oh, you just share your screen. We can't see your screen.
Okay, no worries. We'll do that. So share screen. Thanks, Carl.
Yep.
There we go.
Perfect.
Thanks. So you can see my screen now, yes?
Yep, we can.
Okay, great. Okay. So yes, here we are in Postman, and we have a notion of collection. So collections are a bunch of a collection of saved methods. And in my on my account, I have it's rather chaotic. I've got lots and lots of different collections for different clients and different projects I worked on. But let me just go back to the, and in addition, there's a Salesforce Marketing Cloud, a Salesforce Marketing Cloud 53 methods here, which include both SOAP and REST APIs. And you can download this from GitHub. So if you just Google GitHub Postman Marketing Cloud, you'll quickly see, discover that collection for you to go and download and access. So let me just jump into the collection I created for this meetup today. And we're going to be looking at a few different methods here. So here's firstly the request token. And at this point, I'm going to talk about environment variables. So you'll notice that this is my method here, and I've got my client ID and client secret. So these are the OAuth credentials that I obtained when I went and created my app. And notice that I've got these kind of mustache tags here, and what this does is based on a current environment that I've created and selected, it will insert those variables as values into this method. So, for example, for each app that I go and create, I've also created corresponding environments in Postman. And if I can go and click and manage environments, and you can see here they all are. If I just go and select the one we're looking at now, you can see the client ID and client secret values that I've created, and a number of other variables I've also created for this account. And so what happens is that, and also what I can do is click on this eye icon, and you can actually see those values for the current selected business unit. But if I go and click send, it will then go and make that request using the client ID and client secret for that environment. In this case, I've got an MID here, and this corresponds to the MID I'm using in Marketing Cloud. So you can see I get an access token back. Now, the other really cool thing about Postman, and this is all included, by the way, in the Salesforce Marketing Cloud Postman collection I mentioned earlier, and all these methods that we're going to be looking at, I've made available on our user group page. So you can go, and they're already available now, as well as a copy of my presentation. So I've created a test here, and what this test does is it takes a look at that response payload and see whether it has an access token from data access token. And if it does, then it goes and sets an environment variable access token with this value here. So we're going to have a look at the environment variables for my current environment. You can see you've got this access token ending in UCB. So you can see that this value here has just been added on the fly as an environment variable. And that's very handy because now what I can do is go and use subsequent methods. For example, let's go and say here, retrieve in fact, give you a good example. Let's go and say search a contact, for example, send, and notice that I'm making this request. Come on, and I haven't had to go and paste an access token anywhere. All I've done is in my header of my request, I've got bearer access token, and it just inserts it in. So yes, it's extremely handy, and particularly when working with different projects and you've got different apps, it's very convenient indeed. So let's take a look at some of the other methods that. In fact, before we take a look at other methods, I want to also go and show the test runner that's built into Postman, which is very powerful. So let's say that I have a specific use case where I'm using the API to go and I want to create a folder, be it for a specific campaign, this is a data extension folder. And then I want to go and create a data extension with some predefined fields. So in order to do that, there are a total of 4 API requests that I need to make in the application that I'm building. So the first step is to go and get that request token. And so you can see the client ID and client secret. And then next, we're going to go and we have to, before we can go and create a data extension folder, you have to define the parent folder where it appears, be it if it's in the master data extension folder. Let's go and take a look at the account. So here you can see in Salesforce Marketing Cloud, I'm just going to go to email. I'm going to select data extensions from the subscribers menu. And you can see I've created a folder here called SFMCDG. And I want to create a folder in there and then ultimately a data extension in this parent folder. So if we jump back to the method, let's see what I'm doing here. This is a SOAP API method. And notice that I've got my SOAP endpoint here. That SOAP endpoint is going to change based on what stack I'm on. In this case, I'm on an S6. And if you've got an API that works, for example, if you're creating an application that would work across multiple Marketing Cloud accounts, there's a REST API method, so you can go and obtain the respective endpoint for the account. But in this case, I kind of know it up front because I'm only working with one account. While Postman is a RESTful client, here we have a SOAP envelope that we're using with the SOAP API. And so we've got the SOAP endpoint there. There's the access token that's being inserted in here. So you'd include it in the payload here. You don't need to include it in the header. And then what we want to do, we want to go and get we're going to get the data folder. We're going to get all these properties where the name of the data folder is equal to SFMCDG. So let me go and click send. And I get this response back. So, and there's the ID. And now also what I've done is I've written a test. Let's take a look at this test. So actually using XPath and this XML to JSON function here, I'm able to go and firstly go and have a look at that response envelope, the payload, and go and check that there is overall status is okay. So we go and see that SOAP envelope, SOAP body, overall status is equal okay. Then then our test is true. We've gone and been able to successfully retrieve the parent folder. And notice that I'm now setting this Postman environment variable of parent folder ID, and I'm getting this from this XPath here, retrieve response message results ID, which is retrieve response message results ID. And so that's the value that we're going to be using in a subsequent request. And if that environment variable doesn't already exist, it will create it at this stage. And if we go here, so we can see it's created this one, parent folder ID 45496. Awesome. And now I can go and create my data extension folder. Let's go and take a look at what this method looks like. So I'm getting that parent folder ID that, again, has been saved as my environment variable. I'm creating a GUID. Now in Postman, there are a number of, there are a few, I guess, reserved variables that you can use. In this case, this variable creates a random GUID, which will be my data extension external key. There's also similar variables for datetime functions and others. So I'm going to go and create a directory called, I'm going to create a folder named VIP members, and it's a data extension folder and some other properties of it there. And then once I've done that, I need to know the ID of the folder that's being created. So I've written a test to do that. So similar to that last test I wrote, I'm creating an environment variable category ID, which I'm using in my last request to go and create a data extension. So again, this is another SOAP request here, where we're getting the ID of that child folder we created, and then we go and create a data extension with a few fields: a contact key, account type, sign-up date is customer. Okay, so we've got our 4 methods. And so, of course, I can go and click on these one at a time and see them run. And again, if I just quickly jump back to Marketing Cloud, you can see there's nothing in this folder, no tricks, nothing up my sleeve. If I go back to Postman and click on this runner button, there's also something called Moomin, which is a CLI or command line interface version of this collection runner. I can go and search for a collection I created earlier. So there's Meetup, and I'm going to select this subfolder here. And now I go and select the environment. So which environment variables that I want to go and use with these methods. And we can also go and select a data file. So let's say that I want to go and I've got maybe different data extension names or different folders that I want to create, or different values in the data extension. So I can create a data file and then iterate through all records in that data file, and it will run through this sequence multiple times. But in this case, we're just going to use these requests. And if I go and click Start Run, it's now going to go through all those requests in turn. So firstly, you can see that it went and got that token, that passed body as access token, then it went and retrieved the parent data extension folder, then it created a data extension folder and created a data extension. So yeah, it's kind of pretty easy. And if we go to back into Marketing Cloud, I'm just going to go and reload this page so that the iframed tree view on the right, on the left-hand side shows. So you can see that we've now got a new folder in this FMCDG directory. I'll just go and expand there. And there's the VIP members that we just created. And then here is the customer accounts data extension that it created with hopefully these 4 fields. So contact key is our primary key, and account type and sign up date. So again, you can see just how easy it is to not only go and use Postman to go and test these methods, but also to build out unit tests that you can go and run, even with some sample data, to check that the methods will work. And then also in Postman, something I'll probably also mention is it gives you a nice, go and select a REST method here. It gives you the ability to, let me just go to our body here. We can go and click on this code button, and I can go and just get a code for, say, for example, I'm building a Node application, and it will go and give me the code I can just go and use in my application, or if you're same for other frameworks too, such as like Python, HTTP client, for example. Yeah, very handy indeed. So let's just jump to back to my presentation, and we're going to, before we open it to questions, I just want to share some methods, and several of these are undocumented methods. So the first is looking at retrieving all subscriber attributes. And I say this is strictly, it's not undocumented, but I just raised this because it took me a while to figure this out. And I can see that this is actually quite a common use case. So that is, let's say I have a profile attribute against subscriber. So obviously you've got some default ones, such as the email address, but I want to go and retrieve, what store they're in, or any additional profile attributes. It's actually quite simple. In our API method, and there's a link in my presentation, which you can go and download after this, there's a link to this document. So you'd use this SOAP envelope here. You can also use the REST API too, which we'll talk about shortly. But use the SOAP method here. And notice that is obscurely commented here. It says, this makes profile attribute show in the results. Now, if you include this ID properties value, then it's going to return all of my profile attributes for the subscriber that I'm searching for, such as a store name or gender or, whatever custom attributes I've gone and created. Again, that's kind of not quite intuitive just by including ID, but very helpful to know all the same. The next method I want to discuss is, I've seen this use case come up on Stack Exchange a couple of times, and this is sending a triggered send email to multiple contacts. So you're probably familiar that you can use a SOAP or REST API to go and send an email, that is a triggered send email, to a contact, but you have to send it one at a time. But using the SOAP API, you can actually, I found out that include multiple subscribers in that request, and I've provided a link to the gist. Again, a copy of this is available online now, so you can see that I'm making this request using the SOAP API, and there's the triggered send defined up here with the external key of the triggered send, and then I've got for each subscriber that I want to send an email to, I'm including here, and it will go and send the email to all those subscribers in a single request, rather than having to make individual requests. Now, I also want to show you this feature. This is a really handy feature, particularly, let's say that, I don't know, if I've got a external system that you want to go and invoke sending an email from your platform, but you want to give users of the application that you're building the ability to go and preview what that email is going to look like when it's sent to subscribers. So this is an undocumented method, and I have documented it on Stack Exchange, and there's a link to it here. But let me just show you what that looks like. So if I go into Marketing Cloud, and here I am, and here's one I created earlier. I need to go and find it. So let's go to Content, go to my emails. Here we go. And I think it's this one here. Let me just go and check. It's one of these. No, it's not that one. And be this one here. Focus luggage, lifestyle accessories. Yeah, this is it here. So I'm going to go and send preview, and I'm going to select a sendable data extension that I want to contain in the records. So I think I've got member promotions. Yeah, this is the one here. I'm going to go and select a record in that sendable data extension, generate preview. And this uses both AMP-script and actually guides template language to dynamically go and populate all these iPhone cases based on an array of a JSON object. So that's all nice. That looks good. But now, if we jump into Postman, let's have a look at how to get that send preview just from using the SOAP API. So we go to this other methods here, preview email. Yeah, I've just got an empty body, and on our route, that is the endpoint for the API that we're using. So I use this this route here. So guide emails, and the email ID, this corresponds to the ID of that email. The data extension key, this is the external key for the data extension that that we just used to preview. So that is, you have a sendable data extension containing records, and you define the external key there. And then you include the primary key for the subscriber. And in the case of compound keys, that is where you've got multiple primary keys, you'd include these also. But in this case, there's only one. And then you've got preview kind of HTML. And so this points to the email that we've just been using. So if I go and click send, we'll see what happens. So my response payload down the bottom, and let me just maximize this up here, you can see that it's been returned with, just to prove I'm not cheating here, so we've got some personalization, Eliot, one bag. So we have a look in our response here, Eliot, one result. Where is it? Eliot, one bag. So you can see this this HTML that I got back is the personalized email that's going to be previewed. Now, obviously, it's gone and put some escape characters there so that it doesn't break the response, and you can see these tabs and new line characters which you can go and strip. But anyway, that's an undocumented method that you might find helpful. So what else do we have? We also have this discovery method, which is, I'd say, is it documented? Kind of, it is loosely documented, but for each of the different classes of REST API methods, be it working with contacts or addresses or whatever, you can actually use this method here to go and retrieve all of the available methods, both the documented and the undocumented ones, available for the API. So let's go and take a look at this one here. So in this case, this is for contacts here. If I go and, I can change this to, is it address? I think is one address, or was it addresses? I can't recall. Address, there we go. So here I see all the, for the address service, all of the available API methods and all the required parameters that I need to include in the API method. Yeah, it's just kind of very helpful. So contact, you can do the same for contact, for example. Is it contacts, actually? Contacts, there we go. Yeah, and it shows all the available API methods available there. So let's jump back to the presentation. So finally, I want to touch on some contact methods. So these contact methods are relatively new to the REST API, and I can see that this has really been a focus for Salesforce is to build out the number of methods, and I'm hoping this will be extended in the near future to support creation of attribute groups in the contact model. But today we can create contacts, search contacts, and delete contacts. So when I say contacts, I'm talking about, a contact in Contact Builder. So a contact is a discrete entity of whom a person represents, and with that contact, we can then go and create attribute sets, which are essentially effectively cardinal relationships back to that contact record. So let's go and take a look at that method in Postman, how to go and create a contact. And the nice thing about this is that we can create, when we create that contact, we can also go and serialize that contact data into multiple data extensions at the same time. So in this case, I have, this is my email addresses attribute set. So email addresses, this is effectively all subscribers list here. So when it creates the contact with this contact key here, it's going to go and create that there. And then I'm also creating a mobile subscriber at the same time. So I'm going to go and insert this into what is the mobile connect demographics attribute set. And so that will add it to the mobile connect list. And then I've got a data extension called profile data. And so again, in my contact model, I've created a a cardinal relationship with a one-to-one relationship from my profile data back to my contact record, and I want to be inserting that too. So let me just go and click send. And so I can see that that occurred okay, and there's the contact key that's being created. And if I just to show you, we'll quickly jump to data extensions. I have to remember where I put it now. So I think it's was my profile data. It's hidden in here somewhere. Profile data, there we go. So we'll have a look at the last record that's been created in here. Ending in, yeah, there it is, the record I've just inserted. I can also go into Contact Builder and I'll see that contact appear there too. So just as we can create contact, we can also go and update contacts, and it's very simple. Instead of using post, you just change the method to patch. And you don't have to include all of the attribute sets. You could just say, for example, if I just want to go and update profile data, then I just include this object within the array, rather than the email address and mobile demographics. You can go and search contacts too. So while you can go and search data extensions using the SOAP API, you can't search data extensions using the REST API, but you can search contacts. So if your data extension appears as an attribute set within your contact model, then you can go and search for that, and not only just retrieve data on that data extension, but other data extensions that are linked as attribute sets in your contact model. So in this case, I want to get back the age value from my profile data attribute set and the gender, and then from my all subscribers list, I want to get the email address where, and in fact, that's the response. I apologize. Here we go. I want to get the email address, the profile data, and the gender. And I've got just like you have the simple filter and complex filter features in the SOAP API, you've got a similar condition set in the REST API, where I can search for email addresses equals this array here. So I'm searching for a couple of email addresses here. I click send, and in this case, I've just got one record back here, because there's for the record that's been returned. I'll scroll up so you can see that, and it goes and gives me all of the values for this recipient from the different lists or data extensions that I've included in my query. And finally, I just want to touch on delete contacts. So this is an undocumented method. It is technically documented, although the documentation is completely incorrect. And there is a documentation page for this, but it doesn't appear in the index on the developer documentation website. But rather than showing you this, I'm just going to there's a link to this on Stack Exchange. As you're probably familiar with, that there's no easy way, in fact, no way to go and delete contacts through the user interface. But you can, however, go and delete contacts using the REST API. And it's a two-step process, as I explained here in this answer. So first is you have to go and retrieve what are called adapters. There are different, you can either delete contacts from all contacts and a mobile connect, or either or both. And so you go and retrieve the adapter types that you want to get, and then armed with those adapter IDs, you can then go and use this subsequent request to go and delete contacts from all contacts and optionally mobile connect too. And just include, in this case, we have an array of 2 different contact keys that I want to delete. Again, so a very handy method, and if you're trying to follow the documentation, if you find it, you're going to find it a bit frustrating because it's actually only partially written, and the JSON request they actually provided currently invalid. So you'll spend a lot of time scratching your head. So hopefully that's helpful. And I'll just jump back to my presentation. And that concludes my presentation. So at this time, in our closing 5 minutes, I'd like to open up the floor for any questions.